to my channel. I'm EKC or Erin. Now, on my channel here, what I really do, pretty much all I do, is I talk about things that interest me at the time and I give my opinion. It's cathartic for me. It's a place in which I can share my voice, my thoughts, my opinions, and feel as though they're actually being heard by people. So, if that's what you're into, I hope you stick around. Today, though, I'm going to be talking about a few things. I'm going to touch on the whole Gypsy Rose Blanchard thing. I already spoke of this once a while back, and I'm just going to elaborate on that. But I also want to talk about pretty much all these other channels, in influencers, whatever, these figures online who have been talking an awful lot about Gypsy and her life and her future and their expectations for her, and they're laying their expectations on her. I want to give my thoughts and opinions on that. Now, what I'm going to be using which to do this is a bit of a roadmap for me. Is this short little 3-minute something video from this channel. Danny Drama had spoken about this recently, and they more or less used the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story as a way to come at Radiant Britt, basically. And though I don't agree with Radiant Britt's viewpoint or take on all of this, mind you, I see nothing wrong with Radiant Britt or anything that she says or her opinions. I mean, I don't take issue with them. I just don't agree, that's all. So, I'm going to go ahead and just start playing this.
Today's subject is Radiant Britt and her stupid opinions on Gypsy Rose.
No, why you gotta start off like that? Why they gotta be stupid? Huh? Their stupid opinions. Like, that's not even... I mean, if you're gonna insult her opinions, can you come up with a better word than stupid? I mean, dare I say that in itself might be stupid?
Gypsy Rose was recently released from prison, and she became an overnight sensation.
An overnight sensation?
Exactly, Danny. She had been a sensation since she was a very young girl.
Yes, her mother made sure of that, didn't she?
I didn't necessarily...
No, she wasn't. No one knew of Gypsy until she had her mom taken out. I mean, sure, maybe there's a very small and limited circle who knew of her, but no one outside of that really knew of her. It wasn't until she had her mom taken out that people became well known, or she became well known to people. So I just want to throw that out there. And really, yeah, the world became known of her from that moment. But Gypsy really didn't know what that meant. Gypsy was in jail for the past 8 years. She didn't get to live a life as being this public figure until the past couple months, that is. So this is all very new to her. Whereas this may be like old news to the rest of us, this is very new to Gypsy. So you have to stop and think what it was like 2 months after you first learned about Gypsy. Because that's where her head is at for the most part, throughout, while she maneuvers her way through this very public landmine.
necessarily think that social media was the best place for her.
Why shouldn't she be on social media?
Yes, Britt. Please sit on your high horse and tell us what you think she should be doing, since you think you know everything.
There have been...
See, this comes off as so Danny Drama has some real freaking axe to grind with Radiant Britt. I'm guessing whoever Danny Drama is someone that has sparred with Radiant Britt before in the past, which is fine. I mean, their channel is probably cathartic for them too. I don't fault them for using that. I feel it's something that maybe the viewers should just take into account. That's all.
Been some things that Gypsy Rose has said and done in between my initial video and now current day that I had some questions about. There were some red flags. I didn't necessarily like or agree with what I was seeing, and I have voiced those things while the entire time saying, yes, she was mistreated by her mother. She did not deserve any of that. She deserves to heal. However, she has chosen to become a public figure.
Well, she was put in prison for helping to plan the murder of her mother, so there were obviously more than red flags.
I feel like that just went all over the place. Okay. Yes. There should have been some red flags. Anyone who looks at Gypsy Rose Blanchard should take her with a bunch of red flags, no doubt. But I also think that she should also be taken with compassion and grace and patience, because whereas many of us, regardless of your age, pretty much all of us, have been around this thing called social media for quite some time, and very much so involved in it. We've learned, for the most part, how to maneuver things, at least we're farther along in that education than Gypsy is. And I think that that needs to be taken into account. Not to mention her growth, her developmental stage, socially speaking and just emotionally speaking, it has been stunted because of the limitations her mother put on her throughout her entire life. So she's learning how to cope and how to maneuver the world. And she's going through the same steps that many of us have taken long ago. I think that that needs to be taken into consideration. I don't think that canceling her is the correct way to go about it. But I don't think we should be putting her up on a pedestal either. She's human. But we do need to take into account that we have no idea what being human has been like for her, for the most part. And we are all formed. Our psyche, our character is all formed from our upbringing, from our childhood. So when you have childhoods that differ greatly from yours, you're not going to see things the same. You're not going to approach problem solving the same. That needs to be taken into consideration. It needs to be remembered when people want to react to things that she says and does. Because Brittany's right. Britt's right. She has chosen this kind of profession, if you will. She may not have put herself there, but upon being there, she has decided to take it and run with it. So she has to learn to expect and to take criticism. However, only criticism. She doesn't have to learn or expect to take like intense hate or vitriol or threats or attempts to cancel or whatever. But criticism, yes. So, and I think that the biggest problem though with this is that I don't even think Gypsy's the problem. I think we are the problem. Because so many of us, and I say us because I include myself, I try not to do this, and I'm trying to not do this nearly as much, but I was doing this absolutely at first in the beginning, for sure. It's right there along with everyone else. The problem with us is that we are putting our expectations on her. We're putting what we think she should be doing, what real, genuine remorse would look like, what punishment would look like, what payment would look like, what having learned her lesson would look like. But we don't have any right to that. We're not entitled to any of that. First of all, we're not even the ones that she harmed. Her damage, any damage she did was not done to any one of us. Okay, so it's not our damage to come and collect for. So we're not entitled to that. And above that, we're all free to choose what to do in our lives ourselves. It's no different for her. You can disagree with it. You can sit there and say, well, that's not what I would do and here's why or whatever. But you can't expect her to know what you would do or what any one of us would do or maybe what this is socially more acceptable thing to do is when she hasn't lived in the society that we know of it. She's lived in her own society. She's learned to survive in her world. And that's all she's known. I think that just needs to be taken into account. That doesn't mean you let her get away with murder or anything, no. But you got to give her room to grow.
Like Danielle stated a moment ago, Gypsy Rose was a public figure long before her release. Oh, Britt of Radiance.
And when you choose to step into that arena, instead of living a private life and not parading all over social media and not, saying that you're going to be a voice and you're going to spread awareness and do all this kind of stuff, you can't have it both ways. Either you're going to choose to live a private life or you're going to be a public figure.
You are a public figure with over 30...
First of all, can I just say, I hate this saying parading all over social media. I feel like that's slut-shaming. It sounds like slut-shaming. Anyway, I agree with most of that. She does, the thing is, though, is that she could have chosen to live her private life and she'd probably still be dealing with a lot of this shit because whether she likes it or not, she doesn't really get to necessarily choose whether or not she's a private individual or a public individual. She can choose to go along with it or she can choose to fight it, but it's pretty much the public that decides whether or not you're a public or a private person. Because if the public wants to know about you, guess what? You're public. If the public doesn't care, then you're private.
3,000 subscribers on your channel. But I bet you still expect your privacy, correct? You still live a private life and are also a public figure. It's not one or the other, and you, like many others on social media, are proof of that. Is she supposed to just live under a rock?
The video that I put out recently regarding her donating her hair to this organization that is supposed to be doing all of the good things, I saw the picture that she published. I didn't think that it looked like 8 inches. And no, I'm not a mathematician. I'm not a carpenter. But I looked at a picture. I didn't think that it looked like 8 inches.
Carpenters work with hair? I could be a carpenter.
So she donated hair. You saw a picture, didn't measure the hair, but are convinced that it wasn't 8 inches like she said.
Britt, you sit on your imaginary throne as if you're really making some good points, but you're talking about whether the amount of hair she had cut is actually 8 inches? That's one of the things.
Here's the thing there, Danny Drama. I'm going to think that Britt uses her channel much in the same way I use mine and much in the same way you use yours, okay? Only Britt and I have the balls to show our face and use our name. Yeah. And whatever, you're free to do your channel any way you want, but I am going to point that out. I notice that often when I'm looking at a channel and I'm trying to decide whether or not I should take their information with a grain of salt or not. And it always comes down to one thing. If they're feeding me this information through a cloak of anonymity, I'm sus. I'm highly sus. Yeah, it does seem kind of weird to be speculating or just discussing or commentating on whether or not she actually did donate 8 inches. It probably wasn't. It might have been like 7 1/4 or something like that. But why not round up? Who cares? It's fucking hair. She's still donating the fucking hair. That's the whole point. Doesn't matter if she donates 3 inches or fucking 15. It's the fact of cutting the hair and donating it. That's the part that matters. Anyway, and as much as I find it just a non-issue to be commentating whether or not it was in fact 8 inches, I find it just as redundant to be commentating whether or not this is something to be commentating on. And I guess I'm the ultimate of redundancy here by commentating on whether or not commentating 8 inches was really 8 inches or not. I get that. I do. But like I said, we're all using our channel for the same thing here, so.
Talking about whether the amount of hair she had cut is actually 8 inches? That's one of the things you felt necessary to critique. You cannot tell by a picture how long her hair was, unless there was something beside it for context.
Contrary to what you believe, Britt, you in fact do not know everything. I saw the picture, and if I recall, the hair was
How do you know she doesn't know everything? See, first you have to establish what everything is and what she implied everything to be when she's claimed to know everything. Did she even claim to know anything? Or are you claiming that that's what she thinks? I mean, it seems like you are assuming to know everything that's going on inside her head when you probably don't. So maybe she's not assuming or speculating to know everything. Maybe that's just your own bias talking. And perhaps you yourself don't know everything. But what do I know? I don't know everything either.
curled at the end. Maybe that's why it didn't look like 8 inches. Could that be the case?
That's what she said.
Asking for a friend.
The people that are consuming Gypsy Rose are very polarizing. They either like everything that she does and you can say no wrong about her, or they can't stand anything she does and they...
Yeah, I gotta wholeheartedly, completely, 100% back that statement. That is exactly what it's like when you see any of these content creators, these influencers, these public figures commentating on Gypsy Rose. It seems to be one of two sides. Either all for it and they're going to stand for her, or they're going to just find issue with every single thing she does. And there's a huge middle ground here. It doesn't have to be one way or the other. There's a lot of middle ground here that we can all cover. We can cover a little bit, we can cover a lot, we can cover just whatever we want. But right now, that whole middle ground's being ignored.
They just despise her. And I've done my best to sit in the middle. And I disagree with some stuff, I agree with some stuff, all while simultaneously wishing her nothing but the best.
Yes. We know how you like to sit on the fence, you judgy little snob.
So a recently released murderer's accomplice is polarizing. Shocking take, Brittany.
What's wrong with sitting on the fence? Okay. People I notice like to call it sitting on the fence. I call it devil's advocate, okay? Because if the goal of your participation in a discussion is to reach some sort of resolution, The only way you can do that is if you can understand where the other side is coming from. And one of the best ways to do that is to play devil's advocate, either in your head or out loud or with someone else, whatever. But that's the best way to do it. It's also the best way to reflect in on yourself, is to play devil's advocate, is to take up for a moment the position of those of your detractors, of those who are against you, of those who are combative with you. It's only then will you then begin to see in yourself what you haven't seen before, or you can see the absence of these things that others are claiming are there, whatever. But you can't really learn if what they're saying is right through your own eyes. You have to try and look at yourself through other people's eyes. So I'm a big fan of the devil's advocate, and that's kind of what sitting on the fence is, I think. And here's the thing, I'm just going to reiterate with the whole Gypsy Rose Blanchard thing. Like, you can take someone like Katie Joy, who's been all about, yeah, you go, you slay, girl, or whatever. That's ridiculous. That's just flat out ridiculous. I mean, but no one's surprised really, because it's Katie Joy. But that is a ridiculous point or part to stand on, place to come from, because Gypsy Rose Blanchard is human. She's going to trip. She's going to fuck up. And every mistake she makes is going to be known, because she is, in fact, such a public figure at the moment. And I don't think she has any control over that. She can maybe she can help things quiet down, or she can help keep things loud. But she ultimately doesn't decide whether or not she's talked about at all, okay? That's up to everyone else. Because she can try to live her life as a private person, but if the public wants to still know about her, they're gonna find out about her. They're gonna inquire. And it's the people inquiring about her, wanting to know, and the discussion about her is what keeps her public. It isn't her putting out Instagram posts that keeps her public. It's whether or not people are reading the posts. The public is reading the posts. Okay? So she doesn't have much control or say over this at the moment. She can either ride with it, or she can try to fight against it. So, yeah. And like I said, I think that the problem is not with Gypsy. The problem is with the public, because people want to look at Gypsy and think, and have some sort of faith system in her. And everything comes down to whether or not they think their own levels of morality are being met here. And no one's morals are all the same across the board. So some people will have higher expectations for her than others, or different expectations, or have expectations over one area of life where others won't. That's normal. What's not normal, what's not our right, though, is to insist that she live up to our expectations. And when she fails to, that she punishes, or she gets punished when she fails to live up to our expectations. That's where we are wrong. We don't get to do that. She doesn't have to do that. She owes us nothing. And we don't owe her anything either, for sure. We can choose to be dicks about it, or we can choose to offer grace and be compassionate and understanding. Why it is so many people feel so invested to have to decide one or the other is beyond me. Why not just live and let live, and take what you want and leave the rest. I say that all the time about YouTube content creators to the viewers. When you come across a channel, you take what you want and leave the rest, because you're not going to like everything. You're not going to like everything and that person says or does, or every video they have. You're going to take issue with probably a good amount of their content at times. So what? Take what you want, leave the rest. So, thanks for watching.